Hello and welcome here to Barcelona TV. So let's get started honestly guys. After the news on Thursday about the economic levers, I think the feeling among the fan base, it's been incredible. I think especially the way that extraordinary assembly took place with a reporter leading it of course and explaining everything in detail to us all, and I think the feeling after all of that now, it kind of feels to me like the way it did when Juan Laporta was elected, and it almost feels like right now this is a new beginning, a new beginning, because obviously last summer when Laporta came in, inheriting the club in the state that it was in, it was all about finding a way through that period. It was about survival mode, finishing in the Champions League, making sure that we didn't incur any more losses, and it was about rescuing the club. But I think now, given these decisions that have been made, the changes that we've been able to make in just a year, the board has still done this much quicker than I think many of us are expecting. Here we are ready now to start again to properly rebuild this club, and I think from this day forward we can't look back. There's nothing holding us back, and now the serious work begins. The big decisions start right here, and the rebuild, it's underway. And I think, speaking there about rebuilding guys, one of the most essential parts of any rebuild in my opinion at Barcelona is all about getting rid of that dead wood, and you all know who I'm talking about. Players there who are earning very big money, extraordinary money, and contributing very little and often nothing at all, and for many years now, we've been stuck with these players. We've had no opportunity, no chance to shift them from our squad, because when we are in our financial mess of these kind of players refuse to leave, which they have done only with the desire of sitting around on the sidelines collecting their huge paychecks week after week, which they have done. There wasn't a lot that we could do. We almost felt powerless to these players who basically seemed to hold all the power. But could that change now? Because multiple sources already now, after the activation of those all-important levers, it's being said in the media that Barcelona, they will not rule out the possibility of contract terminations this summer for those players who have been clearly told you're not in the coach's plans, you are not going to play here, but they still refuse to leave the club. They could have their contract terminated, and I think that's absolutely huge, because it's not necessarily about here this summer we're going to spend all of our money terminating contracts. Obviously that's not what we want to do, or maybe even what we will do, but it's just about the fact to me that we have the option to do it now. We have money available to us, and these players know we could do it. The threat is there, and I think that's all we needed, just to make it so that if they continue to make things awkward, if they refuse to play ball quite literally for the first time now since Laporta arrived back at the club, we have the possibilities to take action. We have the resources now to properly clean up this squad, and those players, they know that. Now consider this a warning. But of course guys, aside from moving players on, there is also the all-important topic of bringing players in and reinforcing and strengthening this score, which again we have needed now significant change for quite some time. And of course Robert Lewandowski, he is one of the biggest names, one of the biggest players that could come in this summer and genuinely change this team and change the dynamic of our entire attack, because obviously Barcelona haven't received any response at all for that 32 million initial offer for Lewandowski. We all know that, and we did say recently that very soon we are gonna be making a second offer for Robert Lewandowski. That should happen now really soon. That will be upwards of 40 million euros, and Lewandowski remains more determined than ever to make the move to Barcelona. But I think what's also important right now, keeping an eye on the news, is that Bayern Munich have now agreed a deal, just signed Sadio Mane from Liverpool. The fee they reported to be around 32 million upfront, potentially a further 9 million in add-ons as well, and I think that is a pretty good deal for buying, it has to be said, and I feel like that is significant in the Robert Lewandowski situation, because there's always been that feeling that once buy and get that deal done, once they bring in money, then they will finally enter negotiations, then they will be more open to letting Lewandowski leave. So that's a really key deal there, and Barcelona should be lodging that second bid very soon indeed. In terms of other forward acquisitions, I should say that Barcelona haven't completely given up on the signing of Rafinha. I think right now Leader's valuation of the player, it's huge, it is absolutely massive and way above what not only we couldn't pay but we're just not willing to, because I think the key right now is just because we have the money, it doesn't mean here as a club we're just going to be going and paying. Every single asking price for all of these players just going out and spending it all at once, that's not what we should do because Bartomeu has made all of those mistakes in the past. All we have to do right now is remain very calm, very calculated in the transfer market, and I have to say I completely and utterly trust mate Elimini to do exactly that. He is a very shrewd operator, we know, in there. Transfer market ambassador for me, only going to make that move for Raphinha if Leeds do reduce that asking price, and quite significantly too. I think it's all going to depend on how keen Raphinha is to leave. He really does make a fuss, so he makes it very very clear that he wants out from the club, then things may start happening, but for now there is no new breakthrough on this deal. If we do though, drop back to defense, and this is where it gets to me very very interesting, because Gerard Romero has actually come out and said that Xavi next season he's thinking very much about using 3 defenders, changing the system, the whether that would be in all of the games or just some of them, but 3 at the back is something that is a very real possibility, and I wouldn't actually be too surprised by that. We did see him use a very similar sort of system at Qatar League. You also look at the signings that we've already made this summer: Andreas Christensen, Frank Kessie. Those are players who can operate in that different kind of system, and especially when you look as well at the defensive players that we're being linked with, it all does fit, because there is of course the option of Jules Koundé, Xavi's dream defensive acquisition, and it is said that Xavi this summer is absolutely desperate to add pace in the centre-back positions. He wants to add more speed and the ability to recover in that area, and certainly their Jules Koundé fits the bill perfectly on that bus. As we know, are not alone in their interest in Jules Koundé. Chelsea actually had a head start in this deal. They were the ones who were very much advanced in negotiations, but right now both Chelsea and Barcelona hold that agreement with Jules Koundé, but so far neither of the clubs have agreed a deal with Sevilla FC. It's a rumoured fee right now of 55 to 60 million euros, money that Barcelona could pay, and the potential there as well for one player to be added into that deal. And what I would expect to see now, especially with these levers being activated, is a real concrete move being made from Barcelona towards Sevilla FC for Jules Koundé soon, so keep an eye on that one for sure. In the full-back areas, Marcos Alonso does indeed remain on Barcelona radar, and I gotta be completely honest on this one, I don't really like the idea of this signing, and there is still work to be done in agreeing a fee with Chelsea, but I have no intention of paying very much for Marcos Alonso. Honestly, really, they shouldn't be doing that at all, but I do have to stress here that should Marcos Alonso be signed, he would strictly be a backup to Jordi Alba. I see a lot of people thinking that Marcos Alonso is going to come in and be a starter, that's going to be our starting left back next season. It wouldn't be like that at all. This is someone here who could come in and provide competition, allow Alba to rest a bit more often, which is definitely needed. And I would also say that Marcos Alonso is more comfortable playing as a wing-back. You know, if we do go with that 3 at the back system, he is somebody again who would fit that kind of model. But let's wait and see here if this one does happen, because there is a chance that it still might, not before another Chelsea player is on the radar, because this one I can understand certainly a bit more. Cesar Azpilicueta, he's somebody who can play in 2 different areas there, not only at centre-back but also as a right-back. He's also very very comfortable operating in a 3 at the back system, and I think what would bring there is experience, and not only that but more importantly leadership, because I do think we lack a lot of leadership in our backline. That is something that we certainly have to improve, and Laporta has even alluded to that, but it does remain to be seen whether Chelsea will allow Cesar Azpilicueta to walk away for free this summer. That is what Barcelona would like to happen, and snap him up on that free transfer, because this summer is the end of his current deal, but Chelsea could trigger a 1-year extension. We'll have to wait and see what Cesar Azpilicueta agrees with the club and whether this deal is going to be possible. But if we do now move into midfield, and this is when it gets very very interesting when we're talking about Frenkie de Jong, because obviously after that decision yesterday activating the economic levers, many people are asking, well, what's going to happen now with Frenkie de Jong? Does this mean that Barcelona don't need to sell him this summer? And the answer, that is absolutely right. Barcelona for me now do not need to sell Frenkie from an economic standpoint. We do not need to sell any player this summer from a financial point of view, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's guaranteed to stay at the club, because personally for me right now I still get that feeling that Barcelona is still open to Frankie exerts at the right price. I've got to make that very clear here. It would take a very big offer for us to part with him, but if that offer was to arrive, I still don't think that we would say no. What is clear at this stage though is that we're not going to give him away. Manchester United seemed to be under the illusion that we were desperate. We were going to give him away for 60 million euros. I mean, that was laughable, that was an absolute joke, and that was never gonna happen, and especially now since we are not desperate for the money, which means effectively that if we were to sell the Frankie this summer, if we were to accept that big offer, I personally believe it wouldn't be from an economic standpoint, it would then be a sporting decision to sell Frankie, and the only reason that we would do that is to go out then and buy Bernardo Silva. That appears to be the plan still from the club, but if a big offer comes in and if Frankie can be sold for a huge amount, we would then turn our attention and really target the signing of Bernardo Silva. Xavi is very clear when he says that if Frankie is to leave, Silva must arrive. There is absolutely no question about that, but it remains to be seen whether that can happen, although I would still say that if Frankie did end up staying, and it is a possibility, there is a real chance of course that that can happen, I think we would still need, even with these levers, to look into his contract, because we all remember the classic Bartomeu clauses whereby this contract keeps increasing and increasing as the years go on, and Barcelona still aren't really comfortable with that happening. So I think if Frankie wants to stay, he's already one of our highest earners there, over 300,000 euros a week. It's said that he would be open to renegotiating, that he would be happy to help the club, so it shouldn't really be too much of a problem, but let's wait and see if we get to that stage. But until next time, as always, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon button, so we will meet again very soon with the new video. Until then, take care.